Football is back, and right now Bet365 are offering a wide range of markets, including first, last or anytime goal scorers. With over 45 million members, it's the world's favourite online betting company. We've got wall-to-wall Premier League football with games being played nearly every day, and with Bet365 Bet Builder, you can combine match results, players to score, number of goals and more to create your own personalised bet. And if you can't watch all the games live, with Bet365's Match Live feature, you can follow every moment through live graphics and text. Bet365 is the world's favourite online sport betting company. The app can be downloaded from Google Play and Apple App Store. Over 18s only. Please gamble responsibly. Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the 59th Minute FPL podcast, which is brought to you by The Athletic. I'm Mark McGettigan. You can find me on Twitter at FPL General. Gameweek 3 in Fantasy Premier League is done and dusted, and it was another crazy one with last minute penalties for Bruno Fernandes and Callum Wilson, Chelsea coming from 3 down to get a point against West Brom, Southampton keeping a clean sheet after shipping 5 goals to Spurs last weekend, and there was surprise results on Sunday with Manchester City and Wolves both losing to Leicester and West Ham. All of this made for a very tricky week in fantasy, so well done if you've managed to beat the average score, which was 43 points this week. That's the lowest average score we've had so far this season. A lot of managers have endured a very tough start after the first 3 game weeks. It has been a very crazy start to the season. I certainly can't remember such a swingy couple of weeks in terms of overall ranks and points totals. A lot of people played a wildcard in Game Week 3 and got burned by it. I was looking at some wildcard squads that were on less than 20 points going into Monday night. So that shows you how bizarre Game Week 3 was. And not just Game Week 3, the first 3 game weeks of the season. If you've had a tough start, don't panic. You've got to play the long game. Don't go making rage transfers. I feel like I'm saying this every week on the podcast, but it's important. Don't overreact. We are only 3 game weeks in to a 38 game week season, and hopefully things will settle down soon. You're in good company as well if you've had a tricky start to the season. I had a look at the Elite 64 mini league, which I organise each season. Had a look at it this morning. There's only 23 of the 64 managers in that currently in the top 1 million in the overall rankings. There's some of the best managers in the world who have multiple top 10,000 finishes, 5, 6, 7, 8 finishes in the top 10k, who are currently ranked 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. So don't worry, you're not alone. You have some very, very good managers alongside you, and just take it on as a challenge. It's much easier to get green arrows, obviously, when you're well down the rankings or well down your mini league. So take it as a challenge, take it one game week at a time, and just chip away at that overall rank for the next 35 game weeks. And there's not much between the top and the bottom at the moment, so you'll be surprised how quickly you can rise through those rankings. Usual format for the podcast this week. I'll start with a shout out. We have a new member to the 59th Minute Club, a quick review of Game Week 3, how it went for me, a watchlist update, Twitter questions, and I'll finish up as always with captaincy and transfers for Game Week 4. The £1 a month offer to get access to all the Athletic content is still available. You can get it by visiting theathletic.com/FPL pod. Welcome to the 59th Minute Club, Granit Xhaka from Arsenal. Got lots of nice tweets sent to me on Monday night when Xhaka was taken off in the dreaded 59th minute. 1 point for Xhaka. He becomes the 4th member of the club this season. A couple of notable mentions as well from Game Week 3. Michael Hector at Fulham. Very poor game for him and for his Fulham teammates. He managed just 57 minutes, so he got 0 points in that game. Ryan Fredericks at West Ham went off after 48 minutes, missing out on the clean sheet points. Just 1 point there for Fredericks. That might open the door for the young guy Ben Johnson at 4 million to play for the next couple of weeks, so that's one to keep an eye on. And Traore at Wolves as well. Very disappointing day for Wolves. Traore played just 61 minutes, so he wasn't far away from joining the club. So as always, folks, in Game Week 4, when you're watching the games, keep an eye on the clock. If anyone gets subbed off just before that 60-minute mark, send me a tweet on Twitter. A quick review of Game Week 3 for me. What did I do going into the game week? I went ahead with that -4 early transfer last week. So I got rid of Aubameyang and I got rid of Saint-Maximin, and I brought in Kevin De Bruyne as captain, and I brought in Podence. So what a disaster those two transfers were. KDB blanks, and Podence has a mysterious injury that we didn't know about before the deadline, or at least not early in the week last week. The only good thing about that -4 is Aubameyang didn't do anything, and Saint-Maximin obviously didn't play either. So I'm really hoping that Podence makes a recovery, because that Fulham fixture in Game Week 4 is probably the best fixture of the season. So I'm really hopeful that Podence can return for me in that one and get some FPL returns as well. So the transfers didn't work out, but I had a good game week. I managed 62, so with the -4, that was a 58 net. That sees me after 3 game weeks. I'm sitting on 203 points, and my overall rank is 136k overall. So given how crazy the first few weeks have been, I'm very happy to be sitting at 136k. I always kind of have a target of halfway through the season, around Christmas time, to have a rank of 100k, or hopefully better than that. But I think if you can get to 100k by Christmas, you're on for a very good season. So it's good to be at 136k. The challenge for me now is to stay there and to improve on it over the coming weeks. I'm glad I still have my wild card as well, because the temptation was there last week, and I'm feeling very fortunate that I didn't do it, because I put an article together on The Athletic last week, which players to pick on a Game Week 3 wildcard, and I think apart from probably Robertson and maybe one or two others, that wildcard didn't do very well. And I don't think I've seen a wildcard squad in Game Week 3 that got over 40 points. So I'm thankful that I didn't do it myself. Patience, I think my patient style of play has worked in my favour there. The good and the bad. I'll start with the good. Ramsdale, you could argue that it's not good, but 4 points is a lot better than 2 points for a goalkeeper. It was very frustrating that Sheffield United conceded very late in that game, because Ramsdale was looking at probably 10 or 11 points, but I will take the 4. Robertson, amazing again, 10-pointer. Trent, 7 points, so my double Liverpool defence has come good in the first couple of weeks. Walker-Peters with a 6-pointer, nice to get that clean sheet after a disappointing Game Week 2 for Walker-Peters. Salah got 5, so at least it wasn't a blank. And Vardy was the big one for me, 17 points. Could not believe that he scored a hat-trick against City. But he's done it before. I almost prefer having Vardy in those kind of games than I do if he's playing someone like a Burnley, who just sit back. There's always space for Vardy. Won a couple of those penalties himself as well. So very good performance there. And that's a bonus. Those 17 points for me are a bonus. I didn't expect anything really from Vardy against Man City. I was keeping him for Game Week 4 and Game Week 5, where he's got West Ham and Aston Villa. So hopefully he can continue that good form for me and keep bringing home the points. The bad, Charlie Taylor, just 2 points there. He did go close to scoring though, so that was a good sign hopefully for the future for Charlie Taylor. James Rodriguez, just 2 points as well. KDB, as I mentioned, blanked for 4 points. Mitrovic, very frustrating again, 2 points there. I'm probably done with Mitrovic now. I'll talk about him again when it comes to the questions and my transfers. Podence obviously didn't show up, so I got Burke off the bench, or at least I got a 3-pointer there from Burke. He got his clean sheet points before Sheffield United conceded. So all out on 58 and sitting with a healthy points total and a healthy overall rank after 3 game weeks. Time for a watch list update now. So which players have I added to the watch list following Game Week 3? A couple of defenders here, 3 of them actually. Seamus Coleman at Everton, 5 million. He's played 90 minutes in the first 3 games, so that was my concern over Coleman going into the season. I was slightly worried that he would share game time with John Joe Kenny, but as the Everton captain, played 90 minutes in the last 3 games, and Ancelotti praised him as well over the weekend. So that's all those signs are good for Seamus Coleman. Lucas Dean is obviously probably the Everton defender you want, but if you can't quite stretch to him, I think Coleman at 5 million could be good value this season. He's got FPL pedigree. Just look back on his FPL history. If you're someone who's relatively new to FPL, you might not be aware of how good Coleman was as an FPL asset. This guy used to cost 7 million. We've got Robertson at 7 million this season. Just think back, Coleman was once a 7 million defender. So hopefully he can chip in with a few more attacking returns this season. He got the assist for Calvert-Lewin, so hopefully that is a sign of things to come from the Irishman. Stuart Dallas at Leeds, 4.5 million. Played in a very advanced role at the weekend. I watched the highlights of this one and he stood out like a sore thumb. He's named at left back. Ayling is named at right back, but Ayling tends to tuck in as a third centre back, and Dallas has the freedom to move into a central midfield position, but not just sitting in central midfield. He gets forward as well. A couple of stats here from Fantasy Football Hub. Dallas had 3 shots on target against Sheffield United. So that gives you an idea of how much freedom he had to get forward in that Bielsa system. Now, that's not going to be the case in every game, but in certain setups, Dallas is going to have that freedom to get forward. So I think I prefer him now to Ayling. I think they're both very good options. Ayling had a very good goal attempt saved himself, but I think Dallas at 4.5 is very, very interesting. Arthur Masuaku at West Ham as well, a player I did not think I would be mentioning on my watch list this season. 4.5 million. He started the last 2 games after not playing in game week 1. He got an assist, 3 bonus points against Wolves for a 12-pointer. Now, watching the highlights of this one, Masuaku was putting excellent crosses into the box. And when you've got Souček breaking into the box, when you've got Antonio in there as well, there should be more assists on the way for Masuaku if he keeps that place in the team, which it looks like he probably will now. Again, a couple of stats. Masuaku created 4 chances in that Wolves game, so good underlying numbers there as well. So he's another one to keep an eye on. So that's a couple of defenders. 4 midfielders now. I don't think I've added any strikers to my watch list this week, mainly because they're all already on it. Jared Bowen has price dropped twice already this season, so he's gone from 6.5 down to 6.3. I felt bad when I seen these goals going in, because I spoke to a few people last week who had Jared Bowen and Antonio in their starting 11, and looking at West Ham's fixtures, you really didn't want to have 2 West Ham attackers going into the Wolves game, and there's a couple of more tricky games coming up. So Bowen was the logical one to lose, I thought, last week out of those 2, and then we all know what happens. Antonio blanks and Bowen gets a 15-pointer. Scored twice, could have had a hat-trick as well. He had another decent chance. So he is back on my watch list. I still don't like the West Ham fixtures, so when those clear up, that is when I will look to the likes of Bowen and Antonio. So apologies to anyone who sold Jared Bowen after I spoke to you last week. That is FPL in a nutshell. Riyad Mahrez got the start, 8.4 million. He's had a price drop as well. Played 90 minutes in that defeat. He got a goal, he got an assist, and he got 2 bonus points. A very, very good goal. It's forgotten about because Leicester got all the plaudits from that game, but Mahrez scored a great goal off his right foot. I think he's a better option now that City don't have any strikers. I think that probably frees up an extra midfield spot. So I think if Sterling's going to play through the middle, I think that's good for the likes of Mahrez and Foden. I think they're more likely to get starts. So Mahrez is in my thoughts now. I think there's a question later about Son replacement. I think anyone who's looking to replace Heung-min Son, Riyad Mahrez is definitely worth consideration at least. Jack Harrison at Leeds, 5.5 million. He was very impressive in that game as well, putting in great deliveries into the box, much like Masuaku. Harrison scored in game week 1 and he got an assist here in game week 3. Great deliveries, 5 chances created in that game, so very good numbers for Harrison as well. Now, he can't play in game week 4 against Manchester City, so do not buy him this week. He should have a red flag anyway to avoid you falling into that trap. But from game week 5 onwards, Harrison, I think a lot of people are going to go for Klitsch because he's got the penalties, but Harrison looked really good in this game as well and could easily match him over the course of the season. Final player added to the watch list this week, Marcus Rashford, 9.5 million, scored and had another one ruled out as well. I do still favour Bruno Fernandes though when it comes to Manchester United midfielders. I don't have any United players. If I was to buy one, it would probably be Bruno. Penalties, set pieces, free kicks. We've seen it at the weekend. He doesn't play well and he still comes away with I think a goal, an assist and 3 bonus points. So, you've got to take the performance, put the performance aside and just think of him as he's an excellent fantasy prospect. He's a bit like Vardy. He doesn't have to play well to get lots of FPL points. Rashford, 9.5 million. It's an awkward price tag, but again, maybe those looking to move away from Son with his injury, Rashford is another one to consider. Players I've removed from the watch list this week, Luke Shaw, because Manchester United are looking very, very shaky defensively. Conceded 2 against Brighton, and Brighton hit the woodwork 5 times, which I think is a new Premier League record. So it could have been, the signs are just not good there for the Manchester United defence. So I'll be avoiding those. Matt Doherty has gone from the watch list as well. He was very close to being in my Game Week 1 team. Thankfully, he wasn't. He scored 2 points, 0 points, and 2 points in the first 3 game weeks. He's dropped to 5.9 million. Spurs have a busy schedule with Europe over the next few weeks as well, so I can see Aurier probably getting a game or 2. So Doherty is not worth the cash at the moment. Son and Jesus are gone from the watch list because they've picked up injuries. Che Adams is gone as well, quite simply because I prefer Danny Ings. If I'm going to buy a Southampton striker, it won't be Adams, it will be Danny Ings. And I've removed Holding and Bellerin as well, the 2 Arsenal defenders, mainly because I'm pretty happy with my back 5. I've got Trent, Robertson, Justin, Walker-Peters and Charlie Taylor, and I don't see myself making any defensive transfers in the near future. And I'm just not that interested in the Arsenal defenders anyway. So that is the watch list covered ahead of Game Week 4. Harry's sponsors the 59th Minute podcast. Harry's was founded by Jeff and Andy, 2 ordinary guys who were sick and tired of overpriced razors. Jeff and Andy knew there was only one way to ensure quality, so they bought their own factory. And now, by taking less profit, Harry's offers great quality products for a fair price. Their amazing quality blades are now almost half the price of the leading 5-blade brand. Harry's trial set includes everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. Weighted ergonomic handle, 5 precision engineered blades, rich lather and shave gel, and a travel blade cover. As a listener of the 59th Minute podcast, you can start shaving with Harry's today by claiming your trial set for £3.95. Support our podcast and get your set delivered to you, including a razor handle, 5-blade cartridge, foam and shave gel, and a travel blade cover by going to harrys.com/the59th minute right now. That's harrys.com/the59th minute. Thanks to everyone who sent in the Twitter questions. Over 150 questions again this week, crazy. So I've picked out 10 of the best ones, which will cover the main talking points ahead of Game Week 4. First one came in from Alex Ball. What to do with Timo Werner? Sell him and get Jimenez, or hold for the flexibility of 2 transfers for the international break? So yeah, we are going into an international break now. So after Game Week 4, we're going to have a 2-week break from Premier League action, and most of our players will head away and play for their country. So it's always a bit of a worry in terms of injuries and stuff like that. 2 weeks is a long time in FPL. What would I do with Werner if I owned him? I think I would probably keep him for the Crystal Palace fixture. I do probably favour having 2 free transfers. If it's a case of selling Werner or having 2 free transfers, I think I'll always lean towards those 2 free transfers. Now, the thing that might tempt me into it is the fact that Jimenez has that Fulham fixture. If Fulham can concede 3 to Aston Villa, Wolves could have a lot of joy there in Game Week 4. So I can see the temptation to make that transfer, but I think personally I would hold off, and I would keep Werner, give him the Palace game, assess him for 1 more week, and then you've got 2 free transfers for after the international break. And we know a lot can go wrong during the international break. 2 weeks is a long time at the moment as well with COVID. There could be issues, COVID related issues over that 2-week period. You might be glad to have those 2 free transfers. On the flip side, I know people will be listening to this and say, yeah, but Werner's probably going to blank again and Jimenez is going to get a hat-trick against Fulham. So it's a tough one. Personally, though, I think I would go for the 2 free transfers for the international break. Maybe that's just me being a selfish Vardy owner who's glad he didn't go for Werner and wants everyone to keep him. Question from 88 FPL. Who's the best Son replacement? So I've written down a few options here. I think the best Son replacement is if you've got cash, or maybe you've got 2 free transfers. If you can stretch Son to someone like De Bruyne or Bruno Fernandes, that's the best route to go, but obviously most people won't have that cash. The other options, I've mentioned Mahrez. I think he's a good option. I think Foden is a good option as well, and it frees up cash. Harvey Barnes, I really like. He's been really good the first 3 games of the season, and he's got those 2 good fixtures coming up, so I like that move. I think that's what I would do personally. If I had Son, I'd probably move from Son to Harvey Barnes, attack those 2 good Leicester fixtures, and then maybe you can move away from Barnes later on, or obviously just keep him if he continues to do well. So yeah, I think Barnes is probably the one I like most. Mahrez would tempt me as well. Now that there's no strikers there at City, he should be more likely to start the games. James Rodriguez, I've written him down here as well. I own Rodriguez, but I don't think I would buy him if I didn't own him. I think I do prefer Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison from the Everton attack. So I think the ones I've mentioned, I prefer more so than James Rodriguez. I just feel with Rodriguez, he's going to be more of an assister than a goal scorer, and he's not taking as many set pieces as I would like either. I was hoping he would get penalties, but we know now that Richarlison has those, so I think that dents the appeal of Rodriguez a little bit more as well. So Rodriguez is in my team, but I wouldn't be surprised, give it maybe 2 or 3 weeks, if he's not explosive. I wouldn't be surprised to see myself move on from him. Question from Perlo's Pen. Perlo's Pen FPL is a very good Twitter account to follow, so go and do that. Should we be focusing on defenders with attack and threat more than anything else, given the lack of clean sheets now? I think this is something we've always done in FPL. We've always targeted defenders, not just for clean sheets. We've always wanted defenders with attacking potential as well. I think my 5 defenders I've picked this season is a good example. You've got Trent and Robertson. You want the clean sheets from the best defence in the league, but we know they get attacking returns as well. Look at them against Arsenal. Robertson gives away a soft goal, but then both of them get attacking returns and bonus points. James Justin bombs forward. Kyle Walker-Peters is great going forward, and Charlie Taylor gets forward for Burnley as well. So all my defenders are fullbacks, 5 fullbacks. I think that's the way FPL has evolved over the last couple of seasons. So go with the fact as well that there hasn't been many clean sheets this season. I think a big part of that is all 20 teams in the Premier League are improving. You've got teams coming up from the Championship now that have very good strikers, very good attacks. All teams are capable of scoring goals in every game, apart from Mitrovic when he's in your FPL team like he was this weekend. But yeah, I think all teams are improving, which is leading to less clean sheets. So yeah, if you're buying defenders, yes, go after clean sheets, but we may be at the point now where it's no longer clean sheets number 1, attacking returns number 2. It may now be for defenders, attacking potential number 1, clean sheet potential number 2. I think it's probably starting to swing the other way now. So yeah, I don't think that's changed. But yeah, definitely you don't want to be buying a Connor Cody who doesn't even go up for set pieces. I think I would target those fullbacks when you're buying defenders in FPL now. Question from Rhino. Should we start thinking about Lacazette? He scored in every game. Lacazette is not even on my watch list, and the main reason for that is there's just so many other striking options that I prefer. I prefer Jimenez, I prefer Calvert-Lewin, I prefer Ings, I prefer Richarlison. So there's 4 strikers right away. So there's no space for Lacazette. He's 8.5 million. The other thing I don't like about Lacazette is there's always a threat that Nketiah will start over him. Yes, Lacazette has started the first 3 games, but look at his minutes. 86, 76, 73. I want my strikers playing 90 minutes as much as possible. So that is why I don't like Lacazette. Johnny Small asks, is it time to say goodbye to Mitro? He's a great player, but Fulham look like relegation material. I don't think Fulham look like relegation material. I think they already look like they're relegated after that Aston Villa result. So it's worrying times for Fulham. I like Mitrovic as a player, but I think Johnny hits the nail on the head here. He's a great player, but Fulham are not a good side. So I think when you buy FPL players, you want them to be number 1, a good player, and you want them to be playing for a good team. So maybe in hindsight, Mitrovic wasn't a great choice. I think we're probably fortunate to get those 2 goals from him in Gameweek 2, but for me now, I'm definitely looking to move away because of the Fulham factor. More about that when I come to my transfers. Thomas Jones says, where do we stand on Podence, and should we keep him for the next few fixtures? So I mentioned this already. I think Nuno Espirito Santo has said it's not a major issue, and he's hoping to have Podence back in training this week. So if that is the case, there's probably a good chance he will feature against Fulham. Now, whether it's a start or from the bench, we don't know, but I think if there's any chance Podence features in that Fulham game, we've got to keep him. unless you're moving to someone. There is good options to replace him with as well. But personally, because I'm going to focus my transfers elsewhere, I'm probably going to be forced to keep Podence this week. And it's not just game week 4. The next 4 fixtures are good for Wolves. So I want to hopefully he makes a recovery this week. Hopefully he plays against Fulham. And then we've got him for some more nice fixtures as well. So just keep an eye on it during the week. If there's any updates, Nuno's press conference is usually on a Friday. So, if Nuno comes out and says Podence is not going to play in game week 4, then I think we can sell him. But if he's touch and go, or there's a late fitness test, I think we'd probably keep him just because it's such a good fixture against Fulham. Rishi asks how to stay calm after a bad game week. So yeah, I think a lot of people are probably struggling this week. The listeners, I think the listenership numbers in this podcast always tend to drop a little bit when it's been a low average game week. A lot of people, I think, just switch off from FPL for a couple of days and come back on Thursday or Friday then with a fresh head. And I think that's the best advice. If you've had a bad game week, I always say it, don't make transfers early in the week. If you've had a bad game week, step away for a couple of days, do things that are unrelated to FPL, read a book that is not FPL related, take your mind off things, get yourself on Netflix, get yourself outdoors, and come back on Thursday or Friday with a fresh head, still with your free transfer or your 2 free transfers, and then you've got more information as well. Especially we've got cup games again this week as well, so there's always a chance of injuries in that. Something I find quite therapeutic when I have a bad game week is actually listening to FPL podcasts. I tend to enjoy listening to FPL podcasts more so after I've had a bad game week rather than when things are going well, because I do find they kind of make you realise you're not the only one that's had a bad game week. Usually in a week like this, most podcasts you'll listen to this week, some of the hosts will have had difficult game weeks as well, and it's always easier when you're sharing the same experience. So I do like podcasts more so in a week where I've had a bad game week. So hopefully some of you are listening to this for that reason. You've had a bad game week, but hopefully my tones are making you feel a little bit better and a little bit more positive for game week 4. Jack Burgess says he really wants to play his wildcard for game week 4 as he's not happy with his squad, but with deadline day looming and the international break coming up, is it best to write this one off and wait until game week 5 to play the wildcard? So very good question here. I think a lot of people are going to be in this scenario, unhappy with game week 3, unhappy with their squad, tempted to wildcard, but deadline day is the 5th of October. International break is coming up as well, so lots could change. Now, personally, what I would say there is, if you're unhappy with your squad, I wouldn't let the international break or the deadline day put you off. I would just pull the trigger on it this week, get your wild card in place for game week 4, and hopefully then transfers and international break doesn't impact things too much. What I like about game week 4 wildcard is some of the fixtures. Liverpool have a good fixture. Danny Ings has West Brom. There's a lot of nice fixtures there. Wolves have Fulham. So to me, it's probably a good time to wildcard, even though a lot of these guys didn't do well last week. The likes of your Jimenez and players like that. But I would expect him to come back with a bang in game week 4. So I would not be against a game week 4 wildcard because the fixtures are nice. And also, wildcard in game week 5, it's not necessarily any easier. Yes, the transfer deadline is closed, but I always find coming back the week after an international break can be quite tricky. Some players could get rested, some players could pick up injuries that we don't know about. We've seen it with Mitrovic in game week 1. A lot of us picked Mitrovic game week 1, then he didn't start, and that was probably because of his international, duty in the days before that. So game week 5 can be just as tricky almost as game week 4. So yeah, if you're not happy with your squad, I wouldn't waste any time. I would just go for it in game week 4. Question from Matt Gilbert: what's your ideal forward line for the next few game weeks? I think Vardy would stay for the next 2 fixtures. Jimenez would come in for that Fulham fixture, and good fixtures after that as well. Don't be put off by Jimenez getting 0 points last week. Jimenez is a tried and tested FPL asset. He will be back with a bang. I have no doubt about that. Vardy, Jimenez, and then the last spot probably between Danny Ings or Calvert-Lewin. I like Ings. I like that fixture against West Brom this weekend, but long term I think Calvert-Lewin is probably the player I want in my team. So yeah, I'd probably go Vardy, Jimenez, Calvert-Lewin, but Danny Ings is pretty unlucky to miss out there. Final question for this week from FPL Vader: Podence to Trossard, ? Now, this, I think, I said I'm probably going to keep Podence, mainly because I want to focus my transfers elsewhere. But if you've got no other issues in your team and you're happy with your team, and let's say it looks like towards the end of this week that Podence may not play, I think Podence to Trossard is a pretty good transfer. Trossard has a few attacking returns already this season. He was very unlucky against Manchester United. He hit the woodwork 3 times. So that goes to show you what his attacking threat is this season. What I like about Trossard this season as well, 90 minutes 3 times, which hasn't always been the case with him. So yeah, if it's later in the week and it looks like Podence is not going to feature, Podence to Trossard for a free transfer gets my blessing. Wouldn't it be great if every clothing store you shopped at had only your size, the styles you like, and everything at the price you want? Well, Stitch Fix is a company focused on doing just that. It's an online personal styling company that makes getting the clothes you love simple. It's a completely different way to shop, and it's all about you. To get started, go to stitchfix.co.uk/athletic to set up your profile, and they'll deliver great looks personalised just for you. You'll pay a £10 styling fee for each fix, which is credited towards anything you keep. Schedule at any time with no subscription. Delivery and returns are completely free and easy, so you can always send back items that aren't right for you. Get started with Stitch Fix today by going to stitchfix.co.uk/athletic right now. That's stitchfix.co.uk/athletic. I'll finish up with captaincy and transfers for game week 4. So captaincy, first of all, there's quite a lot of options for captaincy this week when you look at the fixtures. So KDB plays Leeds away. I think KDB will be my captain again, even though he disappointed me in game week 2. I'm not going to let that impact my captaincy decision this week. I think with Leeds, they'll come out and play the way they always play, and we've seen against Liverpool in game week 1. I think there could be a lot of space for the likes of KDB and Sterling and these guys to exploit. It could be another one of those high-scoring games on both sides. So KDB, I think, will be my captain. Sterling's an option there as well if you have him. Salah and Mane are away to Aston Villa. Those two guys are always options as well. Jimenez is at home to Fulham. You've got to consider him, I think, if you have him. Aubameyang plays Sheffield United at home. Sheffield United haven't been great this season. If you've still got Aubameyang, he's probably got to be in your thoughts as well. Danny Ings, if you have him, home to West Brom, doesn't get much better in terms of fixtures. I'm tempted slightly by Vardy at home to West Ham. Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison play Brighton. I fancy those guys to do well as well. And that guy Werner, if you still have him against Crystal Palace, if you're glutton for punishment, why not give him the armband before you possibly sell him in Game Week 5? But yeah, stripping it back, I think for me, I'm not going to look past KDB. I wanted to lean heavily on KDB and Salah for my captaincy this season. That's the main reason I have those two guys, is for those captaincy decisions. Aston Villa, I think, have been much better defensively. Going back to post lockdown, they got a clean sheet against Fulham as well. So I do think they're defending much better. They've got a much Martinez is a very good goalkeeper now as well. So KDB against Leeds, I'm hoping City are going to react after getting whipped by Leicester, and hopefully they put 3 or 4 past Leeds, who have conceded a lot of goals already this season. So KDB for me, but there's a lot of other players I mentioned there who could do very well this season. Not this season, this weekend. Transfers for Game Week 4, I've got one free transfer. Podence has a yellow flag, Vardy has a yellow flag, but Vardy, I think, did say that he expects to be fine for the weekend. Vardy's got hip impingement, so he often, I don't think he does much training early in the week from what I can see, and then he just recovers in time for the weekend. He probably does a lot of his own training just to manage that issue, which I think has always been there for quite a while now. So I'm not really worried. I do expect Vardy to start unless he's got a big inflammation or whatever on that issue that he has. But I think he'll be fine, and we should know on Friday's press conference anyway if he's going to be okay or not. Podence, likewise, hopefully we get good news there. I mentioned on last week's podcast, the reason I made early transfers last week, because I wanted to leave the door open for Mitrovic out to Calvert-Lewin this week. And that's the move I want to make. Now, I've got the same issue this week. I've got exactly 0.0 million to play with for this transfer. So if I waited till Wednesday or Thursday to make this move, I probably wouldn't be able to do it, because there's a good chance Calvert-Lewin is going to rise again. Mitrovic will probably fall before the weekend, given that he blanked. So I may have to make another early transfer, which I hate doing. Obviously, it didn't work out very well last week either, but I don't think that will put me off. I may pull the trigger tonight, which is Tuesday, before the overnight price rises. I may go ahead and do Mitrovic out for Calvert-Lewin, because Calvert-Lewin's a player I want to have long term. I think he could be a season keeper. His price keeps rising. He's already 7.4, so I want to get him 7.4 before he's going to be 8 million, before long, if he keeps doing what he's doing. Mitrovic, as I mentioned earlier, I like him, but I don't like Fulham, so I think it's an easy transfer to make, and then hopefully I don't get any injuries in the cup games during the week, or there's no surprise Podence news like there was last week. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead and take the risk again this week, just because I'm forced to, because the move I want to make, I've got 0.0 million. If I had 0.2 or 0.3 in the bank, I would just wait until Friday, but I'm forced to go early because that's the move I want to make this week. If Podence does miss out, I've got Charlie Taylor anyway, who has a decent fixture against Newcastle. So if Podence missed out, I would probably just play all 5 of my defenders, because all 5 of them have decent fixtures in Game Week 4 anyway. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if I brought in Calvert-Lewin and then Podence doesn't play, because I have Charlie Taylor there anyway. That's it for this week's, folks. Thanks as always for taking the time to listen. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a share on Twitter and leave a review on whichever platform you're using. Check out patreon.com/FPL General if you'd like to hear more content from me each week. Have a good week, folks, and best of luck to you in Game Week 4. The international break is coming up, so there will be no podcast next Tuesday. The next episode will be Tuesday, October 13th. So I will talk to you all then.